Please welcome the former chairman of the Republican National Committee and the former governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, Governor Jim Gilmore.
Mark Everson said he's asking for your vote and not for your money. I'm asking for your money. No. Not for another day. That's all right. I was afraid I was going to be late this morning. I just got here. I was over in my hotel room frantically deleting all of my emails. And while I was at it, I came in this morning and did look around. I wanted to see if I could see our good friend George Stephanopoulos. But I was told that he's this morning carrying Hillary's baggage in Iowa. The way I see it, she's got so much, he's going to be there all summer carrying that baggage. Well, folks, this morning I wanted to come and speak to you about the challenges that are facing us as Republicans as we once again go back to leading this nation, this great nation of ours. I want to talk to you about the challenges that we're facing today. And despite the Obama-Clinton contention that things are just great out there, we all know that things are not great. That unless of course you work at the Clinton Foundation, then things are great. But we know that people out there are challenging. We know that businesses and working Americans, risk takers, and families are struggling just to get by. You know it yourself from people that you see in your own personal experience. In the real America, real Americans aren't enjoying this Obama-Clinton government-driven stimulus type of recovery. Studies show that it's now easier to start a small business in parts of Europe than it is in the United States of America. Today, our government treats risk takers and entrepreneurs as the enemy, not as the job creators that they are. Well, they've all but taxed and regulated and oppressed the domestic energy industry in this country into submission. America could be the energy superpower for the 21st century if our own government would just get out of the way and let it be such. Now listen up to this. Today, the percentage of Americans employed in the United States is the lowest that it's been since the late 70s. About 62.8%. In Great Britain, in contrast, under conservative leadership in Great Britain, it's up to 74%. 48% of recent graduates in the United States have degrees in which there's no jobs for them. Families earn $1,500 less annually today than they did in 2009. Real take-home wages have not increased in 6 years. Millions of Americans are working 2 and 3 part-time jobs just to pay the bills. You know people like this. They're out there just trying to keep food on the table. After college, children are moving back in with their parents because they can't afford to live on their own or can't find jobs at all. Only 34% of Americans today think that their children will be better off than they are. And that is a tragedy because this belief in the next generation is the essence of the American dream. We can do better. The greatest resource that we have are the free, hard-working, risk-taking, entrepreneurial citizens of America. But they're being suppressed by the bureaucracy and the regulations and insane rule makers in Washington, D.C. Most who make these rules, who impose these regulations, have never worked a day in the private sector, but they're telling the private sector how to operate. Now, friends, as bad as the Obama-Clinton team has made things in the free market for honest Americans, we can turn things around. We can make America great again. I promise you this, we can. Now, in the last couple of days, I've seen a lot of younger people who are here in the crowd, at least younger than I am anyway. They're too young to remember the stagflation and malaise of 1970 that this country endured the last time that liberals imposed their beliefs on the American economy. But we conservatives knew that we could do better. We could unleash the American people to create an economy and a country that was deserving of the great people that are in it. And did we ever? Did we ever? Like Ronald Reagan said, we set out to change a country, and we changed the world. Twice since World War II, America has cut taxes, and both times it unleashed an economic boom. First, the Kennedy tax cuts in the 1960s, and then the Reagan tax cuts of the 1980s. Each time, private sector employment grew and economic growth exploded, sometimes reaching a rate of 6%. The private sector GDP of this country more than doubled in less than 8 years. With a population 50 million smaller than today, private sector still created 19 million new jobs in less than 8 years. This is what can happen in this country. It's possible in this country. It can happen in this country with the right leadership. There were more jobs. In those days, there were more jobs. In the successful days after those Reagan tax cuts, there were more jobs available for young Americans then than there were people to fill them. Wages increased faster than inflation as a result. Wages went up. People married younger, started families, bought homes, took their children to church, and faith abounded in the United States in those economic days of success. We enjoyed the greatest peacetime economic growth in American history. So, today, I propose that we do the following. First, a tax cut for all Americans, right now. Now, this would include an across-the-board tax cut that lowers the rates to 10, 15, and 25% for individuals. Second, a reduction of all corporate tax rates to a flat 15% for all businesses combined in this country to spur new investment and new jobs. Today, America's corporate tax rate is the highest in the world, 35%. We can't expect to start, attract, and grow businesses in this country with this kind of punitive tax system when our foreign competitors are taxing companies at only 10 or 15%. It is just an economic reality. Third, I propose the immediate and permanent elimination of the death tax in this country. Elimination. Businesses and families have already paid taxes on these savings and assets that they've accumulated. They've already paid once on that money. They should not have to pay taxes on them again after they've died. Families have worked all their lives to build successful businesses and farms to leave behind. Hard as it may be for Obama and Clinton team to believe hardworking Americans weren't working to build all that just to leave it to them. And I say to you, ladies and gentlemen, that double taxation in this country is immoral. It's immoral to make people pay twice. It's time that we unleash the great sleeping giant that's the American people. It's time we showed the door to the European-style no-growth, skies falling, lead from behind excuse makers that have a stranglehold on our lives and our children's lives and a stranglehold on our future. Time to show them the door. It's time for them to go. And we can start by showing the door to the already coronated candidate of the Democratic Party. We can start there. Two weeks ago, I stated in a public interview that Hillary Clinton has disqualified herself from the presidency and should drop out of the race. She and her husband's greedy behavior over the last 7 years is nothing short of disgraceful to this great country. A person who would take the high position of Secretary of State and simultaneously she and her family running a foundation that draws money in secretly from foreign sources. People of this caliber do not deserve the trust of a free people like Americans. No, no. People like that belong in a banana republic where people are used to royal families sucking the life out of its citizens only to enrich themselves. That ain't America. That's not what we are. Oh, now, many in the media will say that, that's silly, that's a right-wing conspiracy effort. But, enough about what George Stephanopoulos thinks, right? By her actions in going outside the normal, honest work expected of an employee like the Secretary of State by the taxpayers, destroying evidence, secret receipts of foreign gifts, dereliction of duty, Hillary Clinton has disqualified herself from any future elective office, let alone the presidency. Now, we've learned over the years that these people think the Constitution is more of just a guidebook to be loosely interpreted by the liberals that are currently running our government. Their favorite Supreme Court Justice, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, she got to let the secret out a couple of years ago when she said that she would not use the American Constitution as the template for governing in the 21st century. Supreme Court Justice Ginsburg. And they asked her, what in the world? Why would you say that? And she said, because the American Constitution is too old. Well, friends, the American Constitution is above all things there to protect liberty. And liberty is not old. It is still the newest and greatest idea in the history of mankind. The highest office in the democratic world is not a Motel 6 with a for rent sign on the Lincoln bedroom. It is not a conduit for uranium sales to Russians and Vladimir Putin. It is not an office to be used by a shadowy, sneaky snake oil salesman to line the pockets at the public's expense. The office of Washington, Jefferson, Lincoln, Roosevelt, and Reagan has been a beacon of freedom and hope for more than 200 years. Among the nations and the peoples of the world, it stood for ideas and ideals that are greater even than the people who have occupied that office. When locked up in a Soviet gulag as a political prisoner, Natan Sharansky told of how he and fellow political prisoners in Morse code tapped Ronald Reagan's evil empire speech on the pipes of the prison so that all inside would know that the American president was on their side, the side of freedom. And he said it gave them hope. Hope that someday they would be free because the American president told the world they should be free. If we allow Hillary Clinton and her shadowy band of self-serving sycophants to become president, we'll be saying to the rest of the world that we no longer see liberty as our most important goal and America's greatest gift to the world. Are we to say that the aspirations and achievements of 14 generations of Americans must be subjugated to the desires of those who see the American people as no more than providers for their welfare state schemes? If this crowd succeeds in their decade-long goal of building a corrupt political dynasty, what will the rest of the world think of us? Will the Islamic terrorists be more afraid of us or less? Will Vladimir Putin respect us more or less? Will Hillary Clinton stop by Staples on her own apology tour on her way to Moscow to buy another red reset button? Today, because of the Obama-Clinton leadership team, America is less respected by our friends and less feared by our enemies than any time since 1945. Our allies believe that they can't count on us, and our enemies neither fear nor respect us. We need a president who believes in America. We need a president who believes we are an exceptional nation, because we are. All of our history demonstrates it. All of our record of the American Revolution, our Constitution, our battles, our self-creation over and over years and years, it demonstrates that in contrast to other places, we are an exceptional nation. But yet when President Obama said we were no more exceptional than Greece, when he spoke at West Point and told the graduating class that their main purpose would not be to be prepared to lead the world, when he apologized for America in Cairo, when he compared today's Islamic terrorists to the Crusades, and he told the rest of the world that America was a nation in retreat. He told the world he doesn't believe in America or in Americans. And I said then, and I say today, an American president comparing America's role in the world to that of the Crusades was the most disgraceful thing a president has said in my lifetime. You know, I had the great honor of serving as governor of the state of Virginia. It's a state and an office that was held by American leaders like Patrick Henry and Thomas Jefferson. Before Patrick Henry was governor of Virginia, he issued a call of arms in the American Revolution to his fellow Virginians to support the citizens of Boston in their battle against tyranny and corruption and aristocracy and arrogance. In St. John's Church in Richmond, he spoke the words, "I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death." Patrick Henry spoke those words before there was an America, because he believed in America. Today, we still believe in America. You believe in America. I believe in America. It's time we had a president that believes in America. Thank you very much, and God bless you.